Have you ever really, and I mean really, thought about the story behind the food on your plate? Today we're going to dig into a huge, intentional shift in what people eat. A great food swap that didn't just change diets, but changed everything. Health, culture, you name it. So let's get into it.
You know, this quote from journalist Lynn Googie just nails the crazy paradox we're talking about. I mean, think about it for a second. Foods that were once looked down on, called poor man's food, are now sitting on the shelves of fancy health food stores with a shiny superfood label and, let's be honest, a superfood price tag. So how in the world did that happen? What got lost and what was gained along the way?
Okay, so to really get what this swap was all about, we have to rewind. We have to look at what was on the menu before everything changed. We're talking about this incredible, diverse pantry of indigenous crops. These were foods that were perfectly tuned to the environment and were woven right into the cultural DNA of the people.
Let's just take yams, for example. These were so much more than just calories to fill a stomach. Seriously, a big harvest was a sign of wealth, of status. It was a source of pride and dignity. So when we say they were a cultural staple, we really mean it. In a way, to lose the yam was to lose a piece of who you are.
And listen, this wasn't just about feelings or culture. The nutrition behind these foods is just staggering. A recent study on the Ikvuzi yam in Burundi found its protein content is 7.8%. For comparison, cassava is just 1.3. That's almost 6 times more protein. And the potassium, get this, over 5,800 milligrams per kilogram, while cassava has just 271. These were legit nutritional powerhouses.
And it was way more than just yams. There was this whole amazing lineup of heritage grains. You had African rice, a totally unique species that people have been growing for thousands of years. You had sorghum and millet, grains famous for being tough enough to handle serious droughts. You had fonio, this miracle grain that grows incredibly fast. And of course teff from Ethiopia, which is tiny but absolutely packed with protein. It was a food system that was strong, diverse, and incredibly good for you.
So, what happened? What happened to this amazing original pantry? Well, it got completely turned upside down. And let me be clear, this wasn't some slow natural evolution. Oh no, this was a deliberate swap, a substitution driven by a very, very specific agenda.
And this slide right here, this is the heart of the whole story. It was a direct one-for-one swap. Indigenous yams get replaced with Irish potatoes. Hardy millets and sorghum get pushed out for maize or corn. Nutritious native African rice gets supplanted by polished Asian rice. Every single one of these substitutions tells a part of a much bigger story.
Maize is the perfect case study here. It was brought to Africa in the 1500s for a few simple reasons. It was cheap, it grew super fast, and it produced a ton of calories. Not nutrients, mind you, just bulk calories. It was the perfect crop to feed enslaved people on ships and later workers in mines and on plantations. The goal was never about health. It was all about convenience and control.
And here's the kicker. This new, modern food was often less nutritious by design. Take polished white rice, the stuff that replaced native African rice. The milling process makes it look nice and clean and helps it last longer for export, but it strips away the two most important parts, the bran and the germ. That's where all the good stuff is, the fiber, the vitamins, the minerals. So what are you left with? Pure starch. You're left with empty calories.
Now, this food swap wasn't just about changing what was for dinner. The fallout was huge, with these deep, lasting consequences that we're still grappling with today. It affected everything from our health to the land itself.
To really see the impact, let's zoom in on Kenya. Because here, like in so much of Africa, you just can't separate the story of food from the story of who owns the land.
So back in the colonial era, British authorities took over the best, most fertile lands, the so-called White Highlands. These areas were perfect for growing cash crops that could be exported, like tea and coffee. The local people, they were pushed onto the leftover land, the less fertile, rocky soils, where they had no choice but to rely on crops like maize just to get by. Land for profit took the place of land for people.
And the result of that shift? A massive health crisis. The entire diet changed, going from diverse, high-fiber, nutrient-packed foods to one that was dominated by processed starches, like maize meal and white rice. And today, that change is being directly linked to the explosion of diseases like diabetes and hypertension across the continent.
So, fast forward, what do you think happened when the rest of the world finally realized how valuable these poor man's foods actually were? Well, the game changed. It wasn't about replacing them anymore. Oh no.
The new strategy was about owning them. A Dutch company actually patented baked goods made from Ethiopian teff. The ancient knowledge of the San people about the hoodia plant was patented by a research council.
After a huge global outcry about the hoodia patent, the San people were finally offered a deal. And what was that deal? A 6% royalty. Just 6%, for knowledge that had been cultivated and passed down through generations. That one number right there tells you everything you need to know about the deep economic injustice at the heart of the whole superfood boom.
So, is that the end of the story? Is it all doom and gloom? Absolutely not. Right now, all across the continent, there is this powerful, growing movement to reclaim this lost culinary heritage, to take back control of the entire food system.
And this isn't just about being nostalgic for the good old days. This is about real practical solutions for the future. I mean, these heritage crops are naturally tough against droughts, which is absolutely vital in a changing climate. They're way better for you. Millet has 3 to 4 times more iron than maize. But most importantly, bringing these foods back to the table is a huge step towards food sovereignty, giving communities the power to control their own food and, by extension, their own futures.
When it all comes down to it, the story of this great food swap proves that what we eat is never, ever just a personal choice. It's shaped by history, by politics, by money, and by power. So the next time you look down at your plate, just ask yourself, if food is power, who's really in control here?